Inches from the wall, you can feel it. This is where you go if you want to be remembered.
Great drivers perform when the pressure is at its highest. And that's right here, right now.
I'll try and just tackle, make sure he doesn't go wreck or anything, but yeah, there will be some contact involved.
It ain't a game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lyon's coming out to play now, opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited, say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah, out of the way.
The road to $300,000 heads to North America's most storied cathedral of speed, where tonight for the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 9 of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Happy to have you strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us tonight on the iRacing Esports Network, where alongside Tim Terry, my name is Evan Pasoko, and Tim IMS is very much an eNASCAR veteran. We've been racing here basically every single year since this series' inception back in 2010, and it has given us some real thrills over the virtual bricks through the years, including an incredible race last season.
Yeah, you only have to look back to 2019 and see Corey Vincent's win. Led one lap, didn't even really lead the whole lap, just led at the start-finish line to take away the victory and kiss the virtual bricks here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But this is going to be an exciting race. Indianapolis always gives us some thrills, and I can't wait to see how this one plays out. It's the 11th time we've been here.
We don't have to look back to Indianapolis in 2019 to think of a exciting and thrilling finish. If you tuned in with us at the All-Star race 2 weeks ago, these guys jumped over to the NASCAR trucks, ran at North Wilkesboro, and in a thrilling non-points event, we saw Blake Reynolds, Logan Clampett get into each other in the last quarter, Graham Bolin would. But for the first time in a month, we're going to go points racing, and it is the halfway point of the regular season as noted. So as you take a look at our 2020 schedule from Daytona through Atlanta, 8 races down, now 8 races to go until the postseason, Tim. And we kind of talked about it earlier this year, but you look at the second half of the season, Indianapolis, New Hampshire, second side of the screen, tracks like Watkins Glen and another road course, Daytona, Darlington, Talladega as a cut race. This is an awfully difficult second half of the regular season, especially for those drivers who at this point find themselves either outside of the top 8 or outside of the top 20.
It's certainly very intriguing, Evan. If you've left yourself in a hole in the first 8 races of the season, you really have to dig yourself out. But then you look, as you mentioned, Daytona, Talladega. There's 2 wild cards there. Watkins Glen, we have some road course aces per se in this oval series, so they're looking forward to that. Then you have obviously tonight at Indianapolis, 2 weeks time at New Hampshire, Michigan, Darlington, Las Vegas. You can kind of control your own destiny there. There's a couple of races that you really can't. It's almost left up to fate in 2 super speedway races. This is going to be a very interesting schedule down the stretch to try to see who makes it into the playoffs and who gets relegated at the end of the season.
Yeah, 2 super speedways in 4 weeks, 2 road courses in 6 on that second half of the calendar there certainly is exciting. Let's talk about the point situation coming into this evening. And if you were with us 2 weeks ago, we went in depth about what all 40 drivers are currently looking like with 8 races down and 8 to go before the playoffs. Right-hand side of your screen, those are the drivers who need to get into a top 20 spot if they want to stay in this series for next year and to not get relegated. But with the theme of trying to qualify for the playoffs, let's really focus on the left-hand side, Tim, and that focus, of course, is those top 8 drivers.
Yeah, you can pick your favorite and figure out what they have to do to get in to the playoff picture. With that cut line, you have drivers like Ray Alfalla, our most recent point winner at Atlanta a few weeks back. Graham Bolton, who won the All-Star race, obviously not a points event, but he's had a really solid season to start off. They're on the outside looking in. Then you got some veterans like John Gorlinski, Chris Sherbourne, Bob Bryant on the outside looking in, at least on that left-hand side of that graphic, Evan. Then on that other side, you got drivers that really need to get going, because not only are they going to miss the boat for the playoffs, they may miss it for the top 20.
And one thing you don't see listed on all those stats is wins, because there is no win and you're in to qualify for the postseason. So Ray Alfalla, 9th in points, Ashton Crowder, 12th, Colin DeKeister, 16th, all with the race wins. That would be good enough to get you a playoff spot in the NASCAR Cup Series. It is not good enough to do so in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We continue on with our pre-race coverage as we get set to go racing tonight for the Brickyard. I want to welcome in our special guest to this evening's coverage, and it is Jim Beaver, the team owner with Jim Beaver Esports. And Jim, thanks for giving us the time. We always talk about the relationship on these broadcasts between real-life racing and sim racing, and you're obviously quite well known in the off-road racing world. How did you first come to get involved in iRacing at the first place?
Well, iRacing's been something I've been following for years, and had the opportunity last year to collaborate with iRacing, on a few projects, and kind of open the door to, me at the time. It was, the Peak NASCAR series. Now it's obviously the eNASCAR Coca-Cola series, to become a team owner. So we kind of jumped in about mid-season last year. And jumped in and kind of got our feet wet, which kind of slingshotted us into this year and a full campaign here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series. We've had some great partners step up with our program, Polaris Razor, Big Green Egg. They've been a crucial part of it. And we got so, hooked into the iRacing world and of sim racing, early last fall, we ended up purchasing a pre-existing team that allowed us to go racing, in multiple different disciplines in iRacing. We've got some teams in dirt late models, World of Outlaw stuff. Obviously, IRX, the Rallycross series. We've also got, we've been doing a lot on the short course side. As you know, Evan, we've put on our own Triple Crown because, it's so new to the iRacing infrastructure. There isn't a proper world championship yet, which I know, at some point in the future, I'm sure it's coming, but we've kind of tried to step in and help elevate things there. So, it's easy to say I'm all in, both feet, man. I love iRacing. I love sim racing. I love the community. I love eNASCAR. I mean, this is the best of the best when it comes to sim racing globally, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it.
And you're in an incredibly unique position as well. We talk about the different teams that we see in this series, some of them NASCAR teams, some of them, teams with NASCAR drivers. And you mentioned as well that your, involvement in the sim, not exclusive to eNASCAR. So you become a prominent team owner in this space. That kind of makes you a de facto ambassador for the sport of sim racing, if you would, as a team owner, not just in this series, but across the board. What does that entail for you?
Well, it's as the sim racing and iRacing community grows. I mean, it's good for all of us, whether you're at the NASCAR level or or you're like me, a professional off-road racer. We've been able to bridge the gap with iRacing and some people in the off-road community, bring in some of the short course tracks that I believe later this year are going to drop on the service. Sim, and get them up and running and competing in leagues and putting on our own events, and not only that, but supporting our drivers that we have that are competing in all these other world championships as well.
And let's talk about the two drivers that we'll see on track here this evening. You mentioned you guys got involved initially with this series last year. You opted to stick with the same two drivers. So still repping with Eric Smith and Michael Guerrilla. We're at the halfway point in our regular season. Both those drivers outside of the top 20. What's the message you're relaying to your guys as they get set to fight, maybe not just for an opportunity to stay in this championship for next year, but who knows, maybe be a dark horse pick for a late run into the postseason?
Yeah, I don't think if it was for bad luck, we'd have any luck at all this year. It's been a rough start for our team. Obviously, we kept the same two drivers when they qualified back in. I felt like they didn't get a fair run last year, picking them both up as independents mid-season. I wanted a full season with them. Obviously, Michael's had some struggles. Eric in that Big Green Egg car, he's had some flashes of brilliance. qualifying up towards the front. He's had a couple of top 10 runs. I think, Gariglia, if you look at him last year, he came on strong in the second half of the season and was one of the hottest drivers down the stretch in the second half. He just, it had such a slow start to the season that, the points just didn't stack up in his favor. So I think, the second half of the season, we may have a little something. I know the guys have been doing their homework, burning laps after laps in the sim. It's been a really, it's been a tough start to the year, but I think we got a little something in the tank for the second half. And, here we are at the Brickyard, one of the biggest races of the year. I know these guys would love nothing more than to put it on top of the box, or at least finish on the podium or in and around the top 5. And I think we may have a little, for the rest of the field.
And you got Eric Smith as well. Looks like he'll be rolling off from inside of the top 20 tonight. Michael, not that much further behind. Jim, we'll let you go because we're going to get set to drop the green flag, but we appreciate the time and best of luck to those guys out there.
All right. Thank you, guys. And just want to give a shout out to Big Green Egg, man. This is a big weekend, 4th of July. Time to get those barbecue grills out. I know I'll have a tri-tip on mine. Check them out. Big Green Egg website.
You're making me hungry as we get set to go racing tonight. That is Jim Beaver, the team owner of Jim Beaver Esports, as well as a well-known person in the off-road racing community, and as well, I think now, so involved in our sim racing community. Big thanks to Jim for chatting with us pre-race on this one. Let's rewind, Tim. 10 minutes ago, when I said that Indianapolis is basically a veteran in this series, I'm sure that means that we have a lot of stats to get through on this week's iteration of our iRacing Tim Facts.
We could sit here and tell stories about Indianapolis with this series, but we'll tell a couple of brief stories here. The Summer Showdown is back. This race has been held in September the last couple of years. Most times it's held in July. Obviously, tomorrow turns the calendar, so great to see it back here and back in the summer stretch, per se, in this season. Lead late, only half of the races have been won by a driver who has led the most laps in the race. Obviously, Corey Vincent last year only led the last lap to take home the victory. Lead often. Ray Alfalla, our most recent point winner in this series, has 10 starts here with 2 wins and 5 podium finishes and has led 308 laps here. But Evan, keep in mind, he hasn't led a lap here since 2017. First time, only one driver has won in their first Indianapolis start. That was Zach Novak back in 2017. Obviously does not include the first time we were here back in 2010, which was won by Brad Davies. And speaking of Brad Davies, Davies and Ray Alfalla have 2 wins here each. The last 7 Indy races have produced 7 different winners. So 8 winners total. Can we see an 8th different winner here tonight? We'll find out.
And 3 of our last 4 race winners here at Indianapolis as well, going for first career wins. The qualifying session, though, has drawn to a close. We're going to get set to crank them up for 200 miles of racing tonight for the Brickyard. So all that's left is for us to go trackside. Turn up the music as we get set to go racing for round number 9. For the 14th time in his career, Michael Conti is on pole position with a 49.275 that'll be joined on the front row by the number 46 of Jimmy Mullis. Ashton Crowder, Keegan Lahey going to double up for row 2. They'll start 3rd and 4th position respectively. And having 6 different teams in the top 6, we have Blake Reynolds and Ray Alfalla on row 3.
Corey Vincent will try to go back-to-back at Indianapolis by starting 7th here this evening. And to his outside would be Garrett Lowe. Our All-Star winner, Graham Bolton, alongside Logan Clampett. Brian Schoenberg, great qualifying effort for the Clint Boyer Racing 79. And Brad Davies, your top 12.
Continuing on through, Nick Ottinger, Jarl T, and going to be the next duo with Casey Kerwin and Nathan Lyon on row number 8. We just talked with team owner for Eric Smith's number 9. He will start on the inside of row 9 alongside the defending champ with some work to do. That is Zach Novak.
Look at the experience on that row. Bob Bryant, Chris Sherbourne, row number 10. John Gorlinski, Jeremy Allen, same song, different verse in row 11. Then Ryan Luza, our only multiple-time winner this season, alongside Christian Chalner.
Jake Nichols and Michael Corellia are going to find themselves on what may be unlucky or lucky row number 13 this evening. Chris Overland and Dylan Duvall, the Stuart Haas Sports entries on row 14. And then you have Alex McCollum and Matt Busa, that all the way down through P30.
Justin Bolton going to try to make deliveries from 31st place tonight. Brandon Cattell to his outside. Kane, Cook, Malik Ray, Phil Diaz, and Bobby Zelensky deep in the field.
And to round out the field, Colin Keister, Santiago Tires, and Michael Guest going to make up a grid of 39 drivers of a possible 40 here tonight from Indianapolis. Of course, we mentioned the history of this racetrack, and it is obviously one of the most historic tracks in the world in real life. But again, we'll play host once more to another round of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, Tim, as it has every single season since 2010. As we get ready to go racing, let's look over tonight's ASUS race analysis and our weather.
This could very well be a very strategic race, and we see a lot of green flag racing. 80 laps, 200 miles. That fuel window is 36 to 40 laps. That's obviously one pit stop if you can go 40 laps, and a lot of these teams are trying to lean towards that as opposed to 2. You've got 4 tire sets in this race. You're going to start with 1. You've got 3 in the pits, a total of 16 tires to run this race with. Tonight, obviously, if we see some cautions, I think we're going to see some tires being put on these race cars. Pit road speed is 60 miles an hour, and last year's winner is Corey Vincent, and he'll roll off from row number 4. And when you look at the weather's going to change a little bit here throughout the evening as well, Evan. Going to be a little bit hot, a little bit slick, but you can see the overcast, a little bit of cloud throughout here. 79 degrees, wind speed at 10 miles an hour, track temp is 96, but as we go throughout this session, it may warm up just a little bit. We'll see what those clouds do up top as you see Corey Vincent rolling off.
We're all very familiar with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but let's go over the numbers once more. Located in Speedway, Indiana, this 2.5 mile, I guess I should say, rectangular oval consisted of asphalt and brick. The turns banked at 9.2 degrees, Tim, and in combination with this package, which produced a thrilling race here last year, including that explosive finish, the draft going to keep these cars grouped together in bunches, going to be hard to separate, and as well going to be hard to make sure you navigate through turns 1 and 3 appropriately, because you don't want to back the corner up too much or you're going to be dead in the water for a long straightaway, but you go too deep in at the outside wall here, very unforgiving.
I think we're going to see some really great racing here tonight, Evan. The official A-Class division is here this week as well. A lot of these drivers took part in the A-Open races on iRacing last night, so they have some experience and have some laps here. They know each other. There's a lot of respect in this series. I think we're in for a really good race here this evening, and we might very well see that pit strategy come into play as they round corner number 3. We are getting ready for green for the 11th time from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with Michael Conti on the front row. You know, Michael hasn't won this season, hasn't won at Indianapolis. He might have something for these boys tonight.
The pace car going to be down and into the safety of the pit lane this time through. And as always, we're happy that you are spending your Tuesday evening with us here on the iRacing Esports Network. The pace car going to dive off it in. Let's hand things over to the number 8 Chevrolet of Michael Conti as we say, let's go racing from Indianapolis. Round number 9 at the Brickyard is green. And lap number 1, it goes to Conti from pole, but you could see all of the jockeying for position, top 10 and throughout the pack there, 3 wide even, down the back straightaway for the first time. Now your race leaders, though, single file it out just a little bit, first side by side. Sees Brian Schoenberg in 11th, pinned up top. There they are at turn number 2.
Yeah, what a great qualifying effort for Brian Schoenberg tonight. 39th in points coming in, but he has a great history here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's Phil Diaz on our screen in the 75. He's going to be trying to work his way up towards the front of the field here this evening. Still got a lot of laps to work here, and kind of in the middle there with Kane Cook and Michael Guest as he rounds the corner. Justin Bolton right ahead of him, so he's got some work to do around that 30th place position.
You can barely see any separation at this point in the field as looking to get around Schoenberg. That time was Ottinger. He stays in line behind him. A bit of a peek to the inside. That's Nathan Lyon on the door of the 90 of Zach Novak. Some patriotic colors on the number 6 for this week for Lyon. Early happy 4th of July to all of you tuning in, but he didn't get off a quarter number 2 that well. Going to be 3 wide down the back straightaway. Eric Smith wanted to go to the middle, can't do it. Kerwin going to go for the undercut, and even further up the road, that's the number 77 machine of Ashton Crowder. The top 3 trying to pull away from some side-by-side and reel that number 8 Chevrolet in.
We've got some great pockets of racing going on here in these early laps. I mean, you see those top 3 just in behind Keegan Lahey and Ray Alfalla going at it. Garrett Lowe a part of that mix, and there's a great shot of the whole field coming down that front straightaway, down into corner number 1 as we get ready to see some of these drivers at work here tonight.
Yeah, let's take a look with Phil Diaz. That's what he sees in his sim on the right-hand side of your screen, and that's a look at him at home racing on the left-hand side. A lot of chatter on the radio, it looks like. Let's watch him race down the back straightaway as he rides in 37th. A lot of cars up the road.
And the next one we're going to see is the driver of the number 9. That's Eric Smith coming up on your screen. There he is. Eric a little further up, currently in 16th, in the middle of the Hornet's Nest right now, Evan, as he's got the 6 at Nathan Lyon. We already covered that battle a little bit earlier on, so we know what he's up for. But look at that focus. He's also got all the statistics on the side that he can take a look. They're almost 3 wide in front of him.
Yeah, we can look at the stats, and so can he. That was a big sweepy move to the inside up the road at Nathan Lyon. Now even further up the running order, that's the on board with Blake Reynolds in his Coke entry. He was one of the major players in that drama at the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro 2 weeks back. Tim, the car on his bumper is Logan Clampett. Just keep that in mind as these 2 battle for 7th and 8th position.
I think they've had some time to kind of let it go as Casey Kerwin rides in position number 17. And if something does happen between those 2, he's got a front row seat for it. Casey Kerwin has ran well here at Indianapolis in the past. And I know he did some A-Open racing earlier in the week as well. So keep an eye on Casey Kerwin as we go through the evening.
He may have had a chance to win that race last year when Blake Reynolds ran out of fuel. Instead, he put the block in. This man took the checkered flag. Corey Vincent for the Renegades, his Ford Mustang, currently in position 10. Race winner here from the Brickyard in 2019. So we are starting to see the field string out just a little bit. You can see single file up the road. He seems nice, calm, cool, and collected, but there is the single file line at a turn number 2. No side-by-side at the moment. Maybe a look further up the running order. That was Alfalla looking to the inside of Leahy. Didn't happen. Another peek that time by Vincent. Not going to go for the move, Tim, but like we said, because of the draft here at Indy, single file does not mean spreading apart. These cars going to be dealing with the traffic all night long. Let's look off to the back. A race leader. He's led all the way. It's Michael Conti. But you can see Tim there, he looked like he had the run at a turn 4, but wasn't able to get inside positioning on Reynolds, so no change there. That battle for 7th and 8th rages on, and this is the battle for the race lead. The top two have put a little bit of gap on Jimmy Mullis, and in fact, Leahy now closing in on him. That's going to be a battle for 3rd shortly, but Ashton Crowder looking to get up to the WR1 Sim Chassis Chevy. That's the Junior Motorsports entry of Michael Conti, who has led all the way, Tim. And yes, this is a 200-mile race, but we're already 8 laps in of 80. If it were to go green, you are not looking at a marathon tonight.
We've had some races here before in the past, Evan, that have been 100 lappers. These are the 80 lappers. This is the 5th time that we've run 80 laps here, and it brings out the strategy. We mentioned that pit window being 40 laps if you can go the full distance and save a little bit on fuel. This could very well play into a factor if we do stay green. Malik Ray and the 47 of Jeremy Allen having a little battle here. Oh, that was close.
On board with Malik Ray, he's plus 13 positions from the start of this one. Rolled off the grid into P34, right now running in 21st position, so making some moves in his Rowdy Energy Toyota. The driver at Greer, South Carolina, has got that 47 on the bumper. There's also a lot of funny behind amongst a couple of the Ford drivers. Keister, Duvall, full running order, so you know where everybody is at the top of your screen. Caution free now, this time by with 9 laps complete.
You know, we mentioned earlier in the season about Malik Ray as well, winning an Indianapolis 500, virtual Indianapolis 500 here on iRacing, so maybe he's trying to put a Brickyard 400 win per se in there with his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. As you take a look at the 17 of Colin Keister, winner already this season, Dylan Duvall, former winner here at Indianapolis, and Brandon Cattell's had a couple of good runs here at the past at Indy. So these three, keep an eye on them, but they've got some work to do as you see Malik Ray just ahead of them. So this is the battle for 21st on back.
And that's a lot of Fords lined up when you get behind Malik Ray, who we talked about. You got Keister, Duvall, Cattell, even Busa, Nichols, not that much further back. And being mid-pack here around the 20s means that you're already about 6 seconds off of the race lead, which remains unchanged now through 11 laps of competition. And you can see some more funny to going on. Driver who we haven't touched on a bunch to this point, but Keegan Lahey, I mentioned that may have been becoming a battle for 3rd, and it was. He made the pass on Jimmy Mullis, so Leahy goes up to 3rd. Let's go on board with the next challenger on the 46, and that's Ray Alfalla. He's lurking from P5. And let's watch as we go down to turn 1. You can see they all came out of 4 single file, but about maybe 500 feet off of the corner. Then you start to see everybody look to the inside. I saw at least 3 or 4 lookers that time. Nobody had the speed to do it, so they all tucked back in line. But Tim, just because you're not there doesn't mean you're not going to show the nose. We've often seen these drivers flash the nose about a car length or so early to convince that car to give them some space. Look at the race leaders serpentining down the back straightaway. Conti to the grass and then back up to the outside wall because Crowder, Leahy on his bumper trying to break the draft. That's the same dance that Mullis and Alfalla are doing right there for Ford.
I've been watching this battle for the lead the last couple of laps, Evan, especially into these corners. It seems like Ashton Crowder is kind of giving a little bit more into these corners. Michael Conti a little bit better off and getting that drive off. As you see here, it's about a half car length, if that, between your top two, and Keegan Lahey has caught them. 3-car battle for that top spot, and Ashton Crowder once again storms the corner, gets a little bit closer to Michael Conti, but Conti gets that little run off to the short chute. And hello, Keegan Lahey flashes the nose to the inside. We almost had a battle for second.
He tried his best looking to the inside in turn number 2, but it did not happen, and that's actually going to cost Keegan a little bit on this run down the back straightaway, so he basically has to reset, try it all again, and work at a couple of laps to catch up. Top left of your screen, that is Casey Kerwin. Bottom left, Eric Smith. You can see that they are battling for 15th and 16th position, and In fact, Eric is trying to hope that this is more so a battle for 14th rather than 15th because he has his sights set on Chris Sherbourne up the road in the main and tail Chevy.
And both around where they started, Evan, around that 15th place position. So they still got some work to do as you ride on board with Casey Kerwin down the front straightaway into corner number 1, trying to reel in that big green egg, number 9.
That's just one of many battles that is continuing on all throughout the pack here. And another fight is the battle for the race lead. Here they go again, looking inside, outside, down the back stretch, and it'll go to Leahy. He'll make the pass on Crowder, take over second position, and well, kind of contrary to what I would have thought, the 77 Tim more so just kind of pulled over to let the 32 car go. Crowder tucks in line to P3. And now let's see if the Direct Force Pro Toyota for Denny Hamlin Racing going to be the first driver to dethrone the 8. Conti going to go to the bottom. Here comes Leahy on the outside line. At a lap number 15, new race leader Keegan Lahey goes to the point.
We saw in a race analysis presented by Jesus a little bit earlier on, Evan, that these guys can go about 35 to 40 laps on fuel. Maybe if you're Michael Conti, maybe if you're Ashton Crowder, we're 15 laps into a run. Maybe this is the time that maybe pull the reins back a little bit, maybe save a little bit of fuel, try to put a little bit in reserve because this thing has a green flag look to it right now. Ray Alfalla moves by Ashton Crowder to put him in position number 3, but maybe this is the time you kind of put a little bit in reserve and maybe think big picture here if this thing continues to stay green as Keegan Lahey leads. This is the battle for second.
But we talked about it off at the top of the show, Tim, the fuel strategy if this race can go green. And of course, you mentioned it as well as we watch this battle for second, the tire limits. If we go green, not going to be a concern, but typically any opportunity under yellow, drivers going to want fresh rubber, with them limited to 4 sets total. So if you count the set that you start the race with, there are only 3 sets of tires available in your stall. Should this race become a one of yellow and varying strategies, that could be a factor. But right now, I think drivers focused on fuel run.
Yeah, I think this race is playing out to be that way, Evan. When I talked to a couple of the crew chiefs earlier on today, I asked them, I said, do you go 2 stops? Do you kind of go for broke and maybe make 2 stops and use those tires? And a lot of them said, if we go green, we're going to try to go to lap 40, pit there, and if it goes green all the way, we are done for the night. But if you get a late race caution, you're going to come down, throw tires on it, and go back out and battle it out for the win. So there's some different strategies being played out. I think the general consensus is if we go the first 40 laps or so, we see those guys on pit road about halfway, thinking that if it does go green the full distance, they can make it on 1 stop and leave a couple of those tires sitting in the pits. There's Ryan Luza. He's won 3 races so far this season. He's already worked his way up through the lineup a little bit. Still got a little ways to go, though, as he sits around halfway, about 15th or so.
Yeah, fell out of the championship lead last week, but you mentioned his 3 race wins, still the most in the series this year. Homestead, Bristol, and Richmond back to back to back, and has been working his way up through the field here as he currently sits at a +7. But still quite a ways to go. Kerwin, those 2 cars, those are drivers that are used to be much further up the running order in these races on Tuesday evenings. As well, just, taking a look through the field in this one, Tim, we'd be about halfway through the fuel run. If we could go halfway, you can see a lot of the battling going on further back. But, your race leader, Keegan Lahey, in clean air, the best car on track the last time by, he's pulling away. Cars who are not pulling away in this battle is from the 17 to Keister on back for 20th.
Yeah, for those guys that want to go green, they don't want to see this back here. Past Colin Keister and Dylan Duvall. Oh, there's the 24 to the inside. A little more contact. It's Brandon Cattell around. Is he going to save it? No, he's not. That's boosted to the infield. Jeremy Allen to the infield. We're still green somehow.
Cattell going to go all the way around, and now the caution flag is out. You can see Busa and Allen totally blocking the back straightaway, and we have our first caution flag at lap number 18 of 80 here from Indianapolis. And admittedly, Tim, this is kind of the incident that I was expecting to happen. If it was going to happen, it was going to come out of nowhere, and it was simply a case, I think the replay will show, of Cattell overcooking turn 2 just a little bit, caught the fence, came down into Nichols, and I think it was on from there once the rest of the drivers couldn't find an opening.
kind of had that feel that if a caution flag was going to come, it was going to come from that battle. But halfway through a fuel run, and the bomb pretty much explodes back there to bring out that caution flag. But some drivers that needed to be on the move, they were trying to get their way towards the front as we look at the Coca-Cola replay.
Well, we're going to watch this battle all the way for the front straightaway where we pick this up. You can see the 24 of Jake Nichols. He goes to the inside of Cattell, gets the positioning there into turn number 1, but Cattell going to fight back in turn number 2 here. You can see Malik Ray up the road, but it's the better exit by the 14. Pushing right there. A little bit of contact. It comes down into Nichols, and then at that point, once they start spinning, it was really Busa and the 47 who could not find an opening. They get involved in the initial bid, and that's how all of that snowballs into at least 4 different drivers involved. The pit lane open this time by. Are they all going to be takers? Yes, they are, Tim. So looking to take their first of 3 sets of tires available, and it comes at quarter distance.
Yeah, this doesn't change much of the strategy here, Evan. If we get a green flag run, there's still an opportunity for some green flag pit stops around 40 laps into the run, which would put us around lap 60 or so. You might see a little bit of short pitting. You might see a little bit of fuel mileage come into play, but definitely everybody's coming down, and I would take 4 tires here. I don't think there'd be much of a gamble.
Keegan Lahey has got pit stall number 4. We'll see if Conti can use the number 1 pit stall to his advantage. That pit exit scoring line, not that close to his box. You can see the 2 green cones. That is the line that they will race to for scoring off of pit road. So Conti indeed, though, going to be the first driver off, 3 wide behind. Low second. Crowder maybe gets third. And Ray Alfalla tried to split the difference. Couldn't do it. He goes 4th. So what on earth happened to Keegan Lahey, Tim? Came down as the race leader, but a 15.3 second stop, the slowest of anybody in the top 20, and that will drop him to position 6.
We saw Garrett Lowe with the great launch out of his box to pick up a few positions. That's going to put him at the front of the field beside Michael Conti. So try to get a little bit on pit road and not have to do it in traffic. He's going to see the front row when we go back to green alongside that number 8 car. And Garrett Lowe has been busy tonight, Evan. About 2 hours or so ago, he was at the Charlotte Motor Speedway racing the summer shootout with the Legend car and led a bunch of laps, came home, finished in 3rd on a little bit of a damp racetrack, and was able to get the pictures and go through tech with the Legend car and then get back here and do some racing for the Wood brothers. And he's had a busy night. He's had a great season so far in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Has been doing well in the Legend car as well. So it's all working out for the driver of the 21.
And he's got a good seat as we get set for a restart. So everybody down to the pit lane that time, and the pit cycle hands the race lead back to Michael Conti. He leads at 1 quarter distance at Indianapolis. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. You're watching the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
And back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Green flag flies. We are back underway. 21 laps down, 59 to go. And it is Michael Conti back to the race lead. He's chased by Garrett Lowe through turn 1.
Evan, we really didn't see a sense of urgency on that first run by these drivers up at the front of the field. Yes, we saw it outside the top 15, top 20 or so. Interested to see how these guys get spread out and find a way into line if they can. But then you see some jockeying back there around the 36 of Sherbourne as he tries to find a spot in the line around Nick Ottinger. 3 wide now. Here comes the Graham Bolton, number 18, to the inside of Jimmy Mullis. Oh, it's going to get tight.
And they're going to hold the 3 wide through turn 3. Leahy up top, Bolton challenging to the inside. The middle of that sandwich was the 46 of Mullis, but the outside going to be what pays off. And Leahy defends P5. Of course, wants to get back up to the race lead. They're 3 wide even further back, all the way to the inside defense. Malik Gray and Schoenberg. They get back 2 by 2 by the time they get to 1. So does this battle for 6th. And once more, the outside line, the place to be, as Mullis gets in front for the moment. Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, an official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. To get through the first 2 laps off of the restart, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry with you on the iRacing Esports Network, and Tim Conti looking good up front, but it's not going to stop the defensive driving. Look at him way on the inside fence. He's not the only driver doing that. Everybody trying to break the draft into turn 1. Here comes Ray Alfalla in a race-high P2, looking to make a move on the 8 car.
Saw the strategy in the first run. Evan Michael Conti led a bunch of laps and then kind of almost went into conserve mode a little bit, let a couple of cars by and started to ride. Still within the top 5. We'll see if Ray Alfalla can make a move here, see how aggressive he can get. He's won a race. Now he goes to the inside. He's trying to go back-to-back in points races. Ray Alfalla at the top of the board.
And he made the move on the inside. When Conti went to the point, it was high side around. But Ray Alfalla, new race leader at lap number 24. Let's catch up with the 15 of Michael Guerrilla, the Polaris Razor machine, just up the road from Malik Gray into number 51. These 2 cars riding 16th and 17th position, Tim. And you talked about the lack of sense of urgency, top 15. These drivers outside of the top 15, just as aggressive as ever. They were really going after each other off of the restart, a bit tamer now, but as you'll notice, they don't separate as easy as everybody else. This is out of the same spot on track where that last incident came from.
And then you look back in there, you had the Roush Fenway teammates going at it. Nathan Lyon was trying to pick up a couple of positions. You ride back near the front of the field now with the 21 of Garrett Lowe. He's under fire from Ashton Crowder. The Burton Kligerman Esports teammates have done really well for themselves this evening. Logan Clampett just outside the top 10, and Ashton Crowder with a top 5 run so far. So I'm sure Parker and Jeff are excited to see their cars run near the front of the field. And so far so good as you see that field fan out. Malik Gray down to the inside trying to break that draft to Dylan Duvall, and up in front the sense of urgency we mentioned, not really there right now. These guys content to ride in the top 5 single file and try to make up a little bit of ground on each other.
And Crowder has been very, I don't want to say lackadaisical, but he hasn't been forcing the issue in a lot of these battles. He started in the number 3 spot, worked his way up to 2nd, had a shot at the race lead, but really didn't get in over his head. I think he's playing the long game here. Meanwhile, further back, that's number 25 car of Nick Ottinger, the Logitech entry for William Byron Esports. He slides up on the Coke Ford of Blake Reynolds, makes the pass, and talking about Crowder, here comes his teammate Logan Clampett. There's contact. Smith going to go 3 wide to the inside. Remember, Logan Clampett and Blake Reynolds got together on the last lap of the All-Star race 2 weeks ago. Something tells me, Tim, there may still be some hurt feelings there because Clampett squeezed the 3 into the fence that time at a 4. And see if this continues. The beneficiary going to be the 9 of Eric J. Smith, who gets ahead of both of them.
Evan, race car drivers do not forget. Sometimes they might have some temporary memory loss, but they definitely do not forget, and especially something as fresh as 2 weeks ago in the last series race as Blake Reynolds went a little bit high there. Logan Clampett had the nose to the outside, a little bit of a move, but nothing doing there. Casey Kerwin riding in behind as well. Chris Sherbourne, Ryan Luza, a part of this battle, and just ahead of pretty much where all the calamity broke out on our first yellow flag. So a couple of close calls there, but so far so good as they run down the front straightaway, and seems like everybody in the top 20 or so seems to be okay. And then you get a couple of battles in the middle as we ride on board with Casey Kerwin and Blake Reynolds.
It looked like he had to catch the wheel that time. I think maybe Sherbourne got into him just a little bit, but Casey Kerwin, the bottom left of your screen, loses out in that position, hangs on to the race car further up the road. It is the Team Dillon Esports Coca-Cola car of Blake Reynolds, as mentioned, running in the number 10 spot. And again, you're already looking at about 4 seconds off of the battle for the race lead. Now Eric Smith in the bottom left box. His number 9 machine has moved the Big Green Egg Ford into P9. So you're looking at the battle for 9th and 10th right now. Reynolds about 10 car lengths off of the back of Smith as he's got his sights focused on the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. Mullis just lost his spot because Nick Ottinger passed him for P7.
Eric's building himself a pretty good race right now, Evan. In the top 10, started in 17th, as you mentioned, and working up on Jimmy Mullis, Nick Ottinger, Graham Bolton. To the inside he goes, and that Big Green Egg number 9, trying to pick up one more spot. A little bit of a slide there in 2 as they run down the back straightaway, but Eric J. Smith building himself quite a little bit of a race right now as he's got Jimmy Mullis to the outside. Mullis kind of on the opposite side. Evan still in the top 10 as he falls back to what is position number 9 now. Going the opposite way, but still plenty of laps.
One of the best looking cars in the field, and it's one of the highest running to Blake Reynolds, P10. It's our Coca-Cola onboard camera. And they're going to fan out 3 wide behind as Ashton Crowder in the number 4 spot, all over Garrett Lowe in his fight for 3rd, but they have both fallen off of the battle for the race lead. We saw about a 3 or 4 car breakaway up front on the first end of this race. It is Alfalla and Conti have checked out. Best Crowder can do is 3rd, but it looks like Garrett Lowe up the road. That's the Ride Speed Ford Mustang for the Wood Brothers. Pulling a bit on him in this run down to turn 3.
Kind of in the middle of this battle, right behind him is Keegan Lahey as they work through the short shoot through 3 and 4. The battle for the lead is up the road a little bit, but I think at this point in the run, Evan, these guys are going to ride a little bit, about 10 laps or so into this run. Had that first caution around lap number 20, so we still got a little ways to go on this fuel run if you look at it, but I don't think they're thinking fuel back there. You see the drivers up front kind of riding. There's Ray Alfalla. Michael Conti has tracked him back down. It was about a half second earlier, and now it's back down to about a car length and a half as Michael Conti tries to get back to victory lane for the first time this season, like Ray Alfalla did in our last point race.
And that snapped quite the winless drought for Ray Alfalla. We talked extensively about it post-race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Of course, his 25th career win. You talk about a comparison with Michael Conti. I mentioned off at the top of the show tonight, Michael Conti getting his 14th career pole. That is 2nd in series history to only one Ray Alfalla, who has 18 on his career. So when you think about eNASCAR and you think about this Coca-Cola iRacing series, Conti, Alfalla, 2 of the names that immediately jump to mind, and they occupy 1st and 2nd on the racetrack right now with that number 2 machine in front. He's been out there since lap number 25.
Jimmy Mullis continues to slide back a little bit on this run, Evan. He just lost 1 more spot to Chris Sherbourne in the 36, and now Sherbourne looks up at the 18 of Graham Bolton, the 9 in front of them of Eric Smith. That is the battle for 7th on back if you include that number 9 car. Some great runs here so far. Chris Sherbourne is coming towards the front of the field in this run. He started 20th. He's now well within the top 10.
And there's a handful of big movers in this group. Smith plus 10, Sherbourne plus 11, and kind of the one waiting in the weeds, taking an eye, is Ryan Luza, who started in 23rd. He is plus 12 positions in P11 and is kind of the caboose of that quartet for the moment. He's going to try to continue to work his way up the road as somebody big blocking down that front straightaway further out the rear. That was Malik Ray and the 99 Logan Clampett going at each other. There they are side by side at one. Clampett took the 51 all the way to the fence to not let him get to his inside, and it'll pay off for the moment. Clampett maintains the spot. This battle for 14th position, but I guarantee you Malik Ray not going to lift if he tries again. Now look at the block by the 27 of Vincent. It's Jarl Tien nearly into the grass at the back straightaway. 3 wide into turn 3 and is going to get hit. He got tagged by Dylan Duvall, and Jarl Tien, what a save.
And they still scatter in behind. Brian Schoenberg calling Keister now to that inside line as the 41 of Dylan Duvall. He said sorry in the game chat. He kind of put the hand out the window a little bit as they go down the front straightaway. Oh boy, this is going to get tight one more time. Chris Overland. There is a name we haven't mentioned all night long, Evan, but Chris is really good here in Indianapolis. He's got the experience. You should ride on board with Bobby Zielinski in the middle of the Hornets nest.
Tien super loose that time off for the corner. So was the 17 machine of Colin Keister. I saw him all sorts of out of shape, and we're 3 wide again. The dive to the inside is Justin Bolton trying to deliver that car another position. He's on the inside of the 6th and 8th in Lyon. That battle for 27th and 28th, and this gaggle of race cars just cannot get away from each other. Now seen Michael Guest battle with Tien. That's Keister's 17 Ford. Thinking about 3 wide, but he'll stay on the bumper for the moment. They'll go 2 wide into turn 1, working lap number 36. Well, that was a really bad quarter exit, Tim. I just noticed Jarl Tien had such a big bobble. He actually caught the fence a little bit. He lost at least 6 spots down the back straightaway into Baby Boar. Diaz wants to get on him. He's on the bumper of the 55 car of Kane Cook, who's on the bottom of that 66 car. Side by side again across the yard of bricks.
Teammate to the outside and Jake Nichols, so maybe a little bit of comfort in that as these drivers continue to be side by side. This is one of the best battles on the racetrack, but this was about a 12 or 15 car battle, Evan. It's now got back to about 8 or so. These drivers up in front of them have got to a manageable state where, you know, they can run single file, maybe pick a pass off or 2 as Jake Nichols came mighty close to the wall off of corner number 2. But Kane Cook trying to get a little help from Phil Diaz. Jarl Tien to the outside. His teammate Alex McCollum is in this pack as well. It's not where they really want to run right now, Evan, but they're doing what they can as we get closer to the halfway point in this race.
And you are not missing anything in P1. Ray Alfalla has extended his lead to 0.7 of a second over Michael Conti. This is the best stuff on track, and it's all for 30th position and on back. You can see some of the drivers have been able to break away from this chaos. The likes of Bolton, Keister, they have gotten to 25th and 26th or so, but those 2 Mode Motorsports cars who I will stand by, I think, are the best looking cars in the field, struggling for the spots. Now Tien bobbles, and another teammate duo going to go at it as Tien's G2 Esports counterpart and Alex McCollum going to go to the bottom. We're going to go 3 wide. John Gorlinski in the middle. Way back in the 30s, they sort all of that out in turn number 3. So let's recycle back to the front of the field. They talked about Ray Alfalla pulling away, Tim. Looking at the battle for second, third, and fourth, it is Conti, Lowe, Leahy all stacked up at a car length and a half between each of them.
The 8-car of Michael Conti was able to reel in Ray Alfalla and kind of keep with him on this run, Evan, but it looks like now Ray Alfalla has extended the lead. It's over a second back to this battle here as you ride on board with Garrett Lowe trying to set something up with Michael Conti. Conti goes low, he kind of snakes down the back straightaway, lets the door open for Lowe and lets him go on the outside. So Garrett Lowe will pick up position number 2, move Conti back to 3rd, and Keegan Lahey kicking back there in position number 4. I'm intrigued to see if he didn't have that slow pit stop, Evan, if he would have been up there with Ray Alfalla or maybe leading this race a little bit. It might have changed his strategy after he had that slow stop to get him back to at least the top 5 and now kind of riding there in that 4th place spot.
And the difference between his pit stop and everybody else was maybe, 0.6 of a second, but when you're consistently 0.6 lower than everybody else, that's how he drops those 4 or 5 positions, and he finds himself kind of stuck in P4. Should also remind you all that when we saw pit stops 20 laps ago, those were wholesale stops. Everybody decided to come down pit road, and this time by, we're going to be halfway home, 40 down, 40 to go from Indianapolis. So with the tires and the fuel mainly on these cars, we still cannot go the distance. So we're relatively in the same boat, needing, if this stays green, a trip down to the pit lane still to be able to get the distance.
Evan, if you wanted to come down pit road now, you could stretch it and make it 40 laps. But the problem is I don't think anybody's going to try to risk that right now. I think if you try a differing strategy, and it seems like for the most part, we saw that little cluster around 30 if these drivers have found a place to race and maybe taken a deep breath a little bit. I think if you try anything, maybe you start looking at about 30 to go, which is about 10 laps away. But I don't think you pit right now. We're at that halfway point. Yes, the fuel window is open. If you wanted to come down and kind of stretch it, you could. I just don't see anybody doing that right now. We're about halfway through this fuel run, though. We went green just past lap 20. We're past the halfway point now. So these drivers, if they continue green, they're going to be down around lap 60 or so.
And that's what we expect. Of course, there's always a threat of going to overtime, and you do want to have a little bit of extra fuel if that's the case. Of course, we would say that you want to have some tires available as well, but you need to keep in mind that you have limited tires, so you do need to keep track of that. Again, most of these drivers still with 2 full sets available back in their pit stalls. So as we're past halfway in this Brickyard 200, we're going to go quiet and let you listen in on the sights and sounds of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But we want your help in naming this segment. So do us a favor. Tweet at iRacing and use the hashtag eNASCAR What do you think we should name this segment? And if we choose your suggestion, you will win a 3-month iRacing membership if you don't already have an iRacing account. So let's listen in. This is Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we want your help to name this segment. This time by, going to be 35 laps to go. Remember, tweet at iRacing, use the hashtag eNASCAR Help us name that segment. You could have been an iRacing membership and more. So, Tim, I just heard over the radio Brandon Cattell talking that he was going to be headed down to the pit lane this time. We did a little bit of a dive on the strategy, and about 26 laps on the tires and 34 to go. We're maybe 5 or so away from splitting this run in half. That would basically give you an even run on the tires throughout, but I think some drivers may opt to go for the undercut. In the case of your race leader, Alfalla, the best lap of the race that he was run tonight was a 50.4. His last was a 53.2. We're talking about 3 seconds of tire fall off as Keegan Lahey works around lap traffic at Ambusa, so tires definitely at a premium, and the undercut could prove beneficial.
Do you go the undercut and hope a caution flag doesn't come out? Do you go the 40 laps and try to run it dry and then bring it down pit road? What do you do on the tires? This is where those crew chiefs really come into play and try to make that strategy work. If you're at the back of the field, try to do something different. As Bob Bryant and the 42 on new tires going to go to the inside of Keegan Lahey. We've seen some drivers already come down pit road and maybe try to undercut. If you're at the back of the field and you need to make up some time and make up some positions, Evan, why not? If you're up here, I think you're kind of forced to the hand of guys like Alfalla, Keegan Lahey, Chris Sherbourne, those guys up in front that are running near the front of the field. You can't do that strategy. Here's the biggest surprise, I think, all night long, Evan, is Brad Davies. Brad Davies has been running outside the top 25 for most of this evening. He comes down into pit road. There's a driver that could really benefit from this strategy.
Yeah, the first car who has pitted is currently Bob Bryant in 34th position. Challoner, Nichols, Allen, Cattell are the drivers who have already been down pit road. And now here's a major play. Race leader Alfalla. He comes in at lap number 47. It'll hand the race lead back to Leahy, Tim. And I think by being the race leader, he doesn't have to worry about going a lap down by pitting. And he essentially takes that undercut away from Leahy, Sherbourne, and all those other drivers by beating rid of the punch because he's in with 33 to go.
Yeah, this is where the strategy really starts to play out, Evan. You got Keegan Lahey up in front, Chris Sherbourne. How about Chris Sherbourne? What a run that he's had, and he's catching the 32. You can see him there on the screen. Sherbourne has come from 20th all the way up to what is now position number 2 with Alfalla coming down into pit road. But I think he's going to have something to say before the end of this one. He hasn't won a race in this series yet. Indianapolis could be the race to do so. And in behind, it looks like we've got a driver on fresh tires. That's Brad Davies trying to make his way through the field.
Another trip down to the pit lane. That is Garrett Lowe, who gives out the number 3 spot. He is in, so he'll trickle down the running order. And now I wonder, as you see more drivers follow him in, looks like Eric Smith, Ryan Luza, Nick Ottinger, Schoenberg, more drivers that are down to the pit lane, certainly coming in as well for a 4-tire decision this time by. How much longer can you afford to stay out if you're still out there? Again, normally you wait for a car in the top 5 to pit. That's lapped car, fresh tires, Davies passing your race leader, Keegan Lahey, who is yet to come down to the pit lane. But Tim, I mean, Keegan Lahey can't afford to stay out there much longer. Again, in theory, losing about 3 seconds a lap. Look at the 24 machine trying to find a way by. It's Jake Nichols going to go to the bottom. 32 committed to staying out. Sherbourne, though, hits from second.
I think if you're Keegan Lahey, seeing those 2 cars down on pit road, including Michael Conti, I think you've got to come down now. Your hand is definitely forced. You can see the kind of split decision that we have here. A lot of cars coming down into pit road. Most of those drivers staying out or have been down on pit road already tonight, Evan. But I think if you're Keegan Lahey, your hand's kind of forced now. You got to come down pit road, but I guess that's why we're up here and not on the pit boxes, right?
Yeah, we've seen many pit strategies over the years here, Tim, that we thought were not going to play out, and we have been made look silly many times, but there's also, of course, that chance that a yellow could come out, mess up this strategy. It looks like that we are still waiting on about the top 20 cars to pit, although a lot of the drivers who have come in the last few laps have been top runners. You may have some drivers from the back of the pack try to stay out and stretch this, catch a yellow to benefit themselves. but certainly I think that Alfalla in a good position. He is the lead car amongst those that have pitted. He is currently running in 18th spot right now. There's your All-Star winner in Graham Bolton from second, Kerwin from third, Mullis from fourth. More drivers flocking to pit road.
It's going to put Michael Guerrilla in position number 2, and actually that's a battle for position number 2 because Bobby Zielinski's right in behind him as you see Graham Bolton and what was second, third, and fourth at one point down on pit road to get their service. I believe Keegan Lahey may be coming in this time by. He's mired in a little bit of traffic. He's got Schoenberg behind him, and that got close between him and Ashton Crowder and still continues to get close. There's that battle for second. It's Bobby Zielinski taking the spot.
He's been awfully quiet tonight. Haven't talked a bunch about Bobby Zielinski. Started in 36th position, Tim. We talked a bit about Watkins Glen on the calendar in a couple of weeks. Somebody who has definitely got that one circled on the calendar. But Bobby was a top 20 car before the pit cycle began. He's going to give up that battle and to come down to pit road this time. So now Michael Guerrilla in a non-battle with Jeremy Allen. That is not for position. Allen going to use his fresh rubber to get up on the outside and get around that car in second position. And Guerrilla now assumes the race lead because Keegan Lahey finally pitted at lap number 52. He's in. He'll give up the race lead. And now when he cycles back out on track, we'll find out how much he lost, if any.
And if you're the racer number 15 of Michael Guerilla, you've still got about 8 to 10 laps, I think, still in that tank. So if you really wanted to run it dry and hope for a caution flag, you can run it for a couple more laps here. Back to Blake Reynolds in position number 2. You've got about 3 seconds or so. So still got a little bit of a manageable gap back to that second place driver. And you look on the side of your screen, the top 8 have not come down pit road yet on this run, and they continue to stay out. And I think that's the bed they've laid in right now. You kind of have to run this thing dry until the end, unless you're Nathan Lyon, you're coming down into pit road.
And looking at how the cycle has gone through, by the way, it looks like Keegan Lahey is nearly 10 positions behind Alfalla in the running order. Again, they were kind of back-to-back in a battle for first and second. You can see Ray up to 9th. Keegan currently being shown in 18th spot, so he definitely did give up a lot. Granted, he will have the freshest tires of the cars in front of him come the end of the race. So we'll see if he can turn that into an advantage as Nathan Lyon into the pit lane as the number 6 car is in for service. That'll bump everybody else up another spot. Still waiting now on the top 7 to pit. And how about those laps led for Michael Guerilla from back of the pack in P26? He had been working hard. Maybe a little bit more surprised on the call by Reynolds since he's a guy who's been up here for most of the night. There's a trip to pit road. That's Kane Cook from 4th.
We saw Kane a little bit earlier mixing it up around that top 25 battle or so. So we'll see him down on pit road and see what he can gain or lose from this strategy, trying to run that tank as close to being dry as he can, or at least as comfortable to running it dry as he can. Guerilla continues to lead down the back straightaway. He's actually extended his lead a little bit, Evan, over the 3 of Blake Reynolds. It's almost 4 seconds back now between the 15 and the 3. Zach Novak still out on the racetrack as well. We talked about drivers on the right-hand side of that graphic we showed at the top of the show. Zach Novak in that Sunoco number 9, he really has to get going and try to solidify himself into a position and try to fight for a playoff spot. Sitting back in position number 3 right now, trying to hope for a caution.
Yeah, very different context to our last trip here to Indianapolis as Novak is down to the pit lane. You talked about this race being moved to the summer so late in the championship last year for round 16 of 18. A very different situation the last time we were here in Speedway, Indiana. For at least Guerilla's sake, he is enjoying the laps led. I mean, he's good here at Indy. He was a top 10 car here last year. So I don't know if I'm surprised by the fact that he's going to go way off strategy here to stretch or what, but it's worked out so far. Again, 5 cars still need to pit, but you can't make it the distance. We know that. If he can make it 60 laps, we're going to have to check the virtual fuel tank. So he is going to have to pit at some point. So I wonder if he is kind of just banking all on a yellow, because I thought the car was good enough to stay on cycle as was.
And some of these drivers are going to try to save a little bit more than the others. As Corey Vincent, you're right on board with him. He's going to come down on the pit road, get it woe down to pit speed, and bring it down to the attention of his crew. John Gorlinski stays out on the racetrack, as does Blake Reynolds. Michael Guerilla will be your top 3. And Then you see Ray Alfalla currently running right now in position number, I believe, 4 when this all cycles out. And he would be the first driver on that lap 48, early 40s, or late 40s, early 50s strategy right now as Michael Guerrilla continues to lead this. There's not many still out on the racetrack that have pitted around 1920.
And Ray, as you mentioned, all the way up into the number 4 spot, does have 1 lap older tires, courtesy of having pitted 1 lap sooner than Lowe. But the the distance between the two of them, actually, as Lowe has been able to get around Jarl Tien for 5th and 6th, is about 3 seconds and change. Lowe, though, was faster than Ray Alfalla last time by about a half a second. So that doesn't mean that it is going to be a walk in the park for the two. So with Guerrilla in the number 15 opting to come down to the pit lane, it is Blake Reynolds now in the beneath Coca-Cola Chevrolet. He'll go to the point now, about 6 seconds ahead of John Gorlinski, P2. From 21st on the grid is also yet to pit, but not going to matter. Here comes the 2 of Alfalla, and that is the pass right there for second down the back.
And we would almost anticipate Blake Reynolds down on pit road that this time by, or maybe next time, stayed out, led a lap, and we'll see what the 3 car does this time, as he still has about a 6-second advantage on the battle, or what was a battle for position number 2. He's going to stay out on the racetrack this time by, so Blake Reynolds will complete lap number 57 on the racetrack. Ray Alfalla, though, you just barely saw him at a corner number 4 out of the frame of that shot coming in to distance, as there's Ray Alfalla pulling away from John Gorlinski, and there's Garrett Lowe in behind. I've got my eye, though, on Chris Sherbourne sitting back in position number 5 right now. Evan was so good on the later run, maybe conserved a little bit more, maybe saved a little more of his tires. I think Chris Sherbourne's got something for these guys if we stay green the rest of the way.
He and Conti pitted at the same lap, but of course, for Conti having started from pole and Sherbourne having driven up from 20th on the grid, it is impressive for that Letard Esports entry to be ahead of the number 8 Chevrolet at the moment. Granted, we watch Blake Reynolds here and now back to Ray Alfalla. They are lapping at very different lap times. Blake could continue to stay out, and Ray would catch him. Regardless, there it is down the straightaway. You can see Alfalla coming off of the corner, cut a ball on his own. If Blake Reynolds doesn't pit in 5 laps, Alfalla's going to catch him in that time no matter what. And the 3 going to be the slowest car. And if anybody on track, look at that Busa high side. Gets around him, a lapped car. So is that 66 of Tien, who works his way on the bottom. I mean, Blake Reynolds, 54 second lap times. That car's going to feel awful.
Well, you mentioned not pitting in 5 laps. If he doesn't pit within the next 5 laps, I think he's going to run out of fuel on the racetrack. So his hand's going to be forced by that fuel gauge or the fuel tank to come down onto pit road. And I believe Reynolds may be putting the hand out the window maybe this time by as he works down the front straightaway, working through corner number 4. So we'll see what happens there. John Gorlinski is back there as well. But you got to run it dry right now, Evan. You got to hope for a caution flag in order for your strategy to work out. The bet is already made. You have to lay in it. Blake Reynolds is going to stay out 1 more lap. John Gorlinski in the 97 going to do the same thing. But you're hoping for a caution in about 2 laps or so. If not, you're going to have to come down pit road or you're going to run that thing dry.
And you can see the 3-lap comparison between Alfalla to race leader Blake Reynolds. A second, 1.4, 1.7, and 1.2 seconds faster each of the last 3 laps consecutively. So, he's going to get him either way. Granted, again, Garrett Lowe still faster than Ray Alfalla. So watch those intervals on the left-hand side of your screen, because of all those names you're looking at, only Gorlinski, who's in 7th, and Blake Reynolds in the race lead have yet to pit. So they're going to cycle down. So if you kind of filter them out of the running order in your mind, you're looking at the cars who have pitted and can go the distance. This time through, 60 laps down, 20 laps to go. Granted, they would want service, as there is Reynolds. He gives it up finally at 3/4 mark.
John Gorlinski going to follow him down onto pit road, so that will conclude the full round of green flag pit stops. Ray Alfalla is your leader.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
And back live for the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, an official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. If you're enjoying tonight's action from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, why not enter tonight's Asus giveaway and walk away as a winner? If you want to enter to win an annual iRacing membership, a Tough Gaming H5 headset, and a keyboard and mouse Tough Gaming combo, I should say, go to the Asus Twitter account at ASUS_ROGNA and look for the tweet from today, and you can click on that link and enter and walk away with some pretty good gaming peripherals, Tim, for your setup at home.
Absolutely, and speaking of setup, Ray Alfalla has this thing set up fairly well for himself, although it's 2 seconds back. We got a battle for that second place position. Chris Sherbourne has just taken it over from Garrett Lowe. Lowe has fallen back to third. You got Michael Conti and Keegan Lahey. I think this becomes a 5-horse race if this thing stays green. There's the battle for second on back as they continue to reel in Ray Alfalla.
And of course, the interval is getting a little bit smaller lap by lap as the tires start to even themselves out. The last time this group was only a 1/10 of a second better than the 2-car up front. And as you see Leahy make the pass at the inside of the gate of Michael Conti, if they start to battle with one another with only 17 laps to go, that will aid the 2 cars' case because they'll start to slow each other down if they opt to start fighting side by side. Let's go on board with Keegan Lahey, 4th position, trying to chase down Garrett Lowe. So as we get to the end of this race, Tim, let's check in once more with all of our onboards for this evening and kick it off once more. Looking in with Phil Diaz. He's up 12 spots from where he started. There's him in the Mode Motorsports for 75, actually under fire right now. Behind with Michael Guerrilla, left-hand side. And looking at him live at home, his 15 car makes the pass on him for P25.
A great little run there for him as he tries to figure out what he has in the remaining 15 laps of this race. Little battle in front of him as he comes up at corner number 4, Corey Vincent. You're going to see his view in the 27. He was one of those drivers, Evan, that stayed out and tried to get some strategy to work for him, and currently in position P31, not really working for him. And you kind of see the facial expression right now, just trying to hold on for these remaining 14 laps.
He's always one of the calmest ones from behind the wheel, but you can kind of see a bit of the frustration there as he works in P31 as the defending race winner of this from 2019. Not how he was hoping his return to Indianapolis would go. Making some passes back there in traffic, but again, nowhere near what he wanted as he goes to the inside and makes the pass on Christian Challenger, I should say, as Corey Vincent's moving up to the field. He does have fresher tires than most cars back there, so he should be okay. A lot further up in running order, there is the number 9 of Eric J. Smith. The Big Green Egg Ford started 17th, and he leads the way for Jim Beaver Esports in P8.
He's had a great run so far this evening. He's been in the top 10 all night long. There's Blake Reynolds, another driver that's been kind of hanging around the top 10. Did that strategy, though, Evan. He currently sits in position number 34. He's got some work to do. He's got about 7 seconds or so to catch that next driver, because all you can see in front of him right now is clean racetrack. Typically, that's good if you're the leader, but if you're sitting in P34, that's not too much.
And you can see Kerwin on the bumper of our All-Star winner in Graham Bolton. So that's a Denny Hamlin Racing entry, looking up at a Joe Gibbs Racing entry. So I don't know if we consider those two kind of affiliate teammates or what, but Casey wants to break into those single digits, and another one of those drivers who is very calm from behind the wheel. You see almost no radio chatter coming from him right now, as he's very much focused in on the goal. A change for position number 2. It belongs to Springfield, Illinois' Chris Sherbourne, who just made the pass on the Garrett Lowe machine. He's since trickled down to 4th, and Sherbourne is now leading the charge to catch Ray Alfalla. This time by going to be 12 laps to go. The gap between the two of them less than 1.5 seconds.
Well, he's a relative newcomer to this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, Evan, being here the last couple of seasons. Chris Sherbourne's been around the sim racing community since pretty much the virtual dirt was new. He's been around the block a few times. He's been in some of the big events, and now looking to take away what would be his first eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series victory. We mentioned before that this place doesn't usually tend to first-time winners per se, but let's see what he can do here. Chris Sherbourne looking to extend that list of different winners here at Indianapolis, but he's got to catch that 2-car. Ray Alfalla, our most recent point winner, trying to go back-to-back in point races and try to get himself in a playoff position, but he's got a very quick pony in behind him.
That is Keegan Lahey, who is on the bumper. It's about a car length and change between second and third. And, of course, in a perfect world here, Sherbourne catches up to Alfalla before the 32 gets to him. That can kind of give him a bit of a buffer, maybe hope that Alfalla slows down to 32. But Leahy is a little bit faster. His tires are 2 laps newer than those on the number 36 of Sherbourne. So again, you come down to the pit lane first, like Alfalla did. You're going to have the fresh tires the soonest, but you will have the oldest tires at the end of the race. Let's take a second look here with Ray Alfalla. His gap has gone down quite a bit. Tim, right-hand side of your screen, I'm going to show you why.
Yeah, coming out of the corner, and that's right there. That's all it takes. You can see that little hood pop there on the right-hand side, and just trying to judge a little bit and just misjudge just a small little fraction, and you don't usually see that out of Ray Alfalla, but that is going to slow him down. That's going to hinder him. That little crinkle on the right front fender is allowing the 36 of Sherbourne, the 32 of Leahy to close in a little bit quicker than maybe they would have before. That battle back there for 4th has been back and forth the last couple laps. Michael Conti, Garrett Lowe have swapped that position again. Conti back up to position number 4 as we ride on board with Chris Sherbourne. How many laps does it take to get to the back bumper in the BRS number 2?
Well, this is basically the exact view that he has on board. You can see Leahy out of the rear view mirror for those split seconds over the big spoiler, which blocks most of his view. Leahy about 2 car lengths off of the bumper. It is the 36 car as you now go with the virtual visor cam. 3 car lengths off of Alfalla, who we mentioned went winless in 2019 for the first time in his career. Went a whole season without a win, snapped a 25-race winless drought last time out at Atlanta. He wants to go back-to-back tonight here with the 36 and the 32. Going to try to prevent it from happening. They all close up in 1. That time by was 9 laps to go. You're on board with Leahy.
He kind of controls this battle a little bit here as the 32 of Keegan Lahey on the back bumper, the 36 of Chris Sherbourne. Ray Alfalla, we know he's a little bit slower. We know he's got a little bit of damage. When does Sherbourne make the move? And if you're Keegan Lahey, when do you make the move? How do you manage that to try to make that pass?
Here's the move to the inside, a small block, but it's not going to happen. Leahy to the inside of Sherbourne for second, and he's got it in turn 3. Move Keegan Lahey up into position number 2, and now he'll set his sights to the race leader Alfalla. Can Sherbourne come back, or is that it?
think Sherbourne might have something, especially if Ray Alfalla and Keegan Lahey get to battling, because Ray Alfalla is not going to let this go easy, Evan. It's a race win at Indianapolis. He's led so many laps here, over 300 laps. Wants that third win here at Indianapolis to take over the lead for all-time wins at the Brickyard in this series. Keegan Lahey wants to get to victory lane as well. It's been a while since Daytona. Chris Sherbourne could be the beneficiary of that if they continue to go at it. Keep a half eye on that battle for position number 4 as well. It's a little ways out of our frame from the ride on board with Ray Alfalla, but Michael Conti and Garrett Lowe, should something happen up here in front, it might put them in a position.
Yeah, they are still closing from 5th on to back. However, it is more so, I think, as you mentioned, a battle amongst themselves between Conti and Lowe and some of those other drivers. Here's now Leahy to the outside. They're going to drag race down the front straightaway. Alfalla holds the bottom. The momentum goes to Keegan Lahey on the outside for the race lead at 7 laps to go. The 2-car gets sideways, and Keegan Lahey, new race leader, lap 74.
And if I'm Chris Sherbourne, I gotta go, and I gotta go now because Keegan Lahey is getting smaller and smaller and smaller in the windshield. Ray Alfalla down to the inside allows Chris Sherbourne to battle to the outside, side by side for position number 2, and Sherbourne can't get that whole car side by side. Gonna hold him up a little bit more as they come through the short chute. I think he's gonna get this position here, Evan, but it's gonna hold him up a little bit for Keegan Lahey to build the lead.
Yeah, Keegan Lahey was able to get through Alfalla in turn 1 because he used that whole straightaway to wind it up. Meanwhile, Sherbourne took both turns 3 and 4, and this time by the art of bricks. Yes, Sherbourne is to P2, but it costs him a half a second up to the 32 machine. I'm not sure Sherbourne has it up in the tank to make that happen. So close to a chance at a first career win, a first trip to victory lane for Latardi Sports, but Keegan Lahey may have spoiled the party. Then the Hamlin Racing Toyota trying to check out.
Evan, it's not over, but I think the fat lady's starting to warm up a little bit in the background. Chris Sherbourne in position number 2. I think he can track him down a little bit, but he's going to need a little bit of help. You can catch him. Passing him is a whole different ball game as they come out of corner number 4 this time by, and they'll see 5 laps to go from the flag stand this time by. So Keegan Lahey is in control of this. Chris Sherbourne in position number 2, and continues to be a battle back there for position number 4, but I think that's all it's going to be in between them as Michael Conti and Garrett Lowe have been going at it for that spot. Currently, Michael Conti has that position as your top 3 get a little bit sync.
They string them out just a little bit here. Still many dominoes to fall through the field, but Chris Sherbourne is going to have to get everything out of these next couple laps. He was faster last time by, a 53.086 for Leahy. It was a 53 flat for Sherbourne. He is going to have that draft to use to his advantage. Again, Leahy's tires 2 laps better. Let's see if he gained anything this time.
Coming down the front straightaway, it looks like that Chris Sherbourne is kind of keeping it equidistance a little bit. He gained a little bit there, but he's going to need a little bit more, Evan, to get to him and try to make that move. The thing that we're seeing, though, especially out of that rear view mirror, is Ray Alfalla is dropping off this battle a little bit. I think we're going to have a 2-horse race before this thing is all said and done. Wonder if that mane and pony underneath your mane and tail pony has a little bit more to try to catch this 32.
You could see that big positive at 0.3 of a second. That was the lap that he had to struggle around the outside of the number 2. That's why he got checked up so much and lost some time. There's a lot of yelling on the radio. Brian Schoenberg and Logan DeClampett made contact for 20th, so I took a look back there to see if there was any incident. We're still green, they're fine, but maybe a little bit of a bump and run late in this one, Tim, so maybe that desperation kicking in that time by. 3 laps to go.
These top 2 are trading quick laps back and forth, Evan. The 32 of Keegan Lahey will post a lap a little bit quicker than Sherbourne. Sherbourne will rein it in just a little bit, but if they continue to do that, and it continues to be hundredths or thousandths of a second, it's not going to matter a whole lot. Sherbourne needs to get up on the wheel, but Keegan Lahey, I think he's got something in reserve as well. It's going to be a great battle down to the end. 2.5 laps left to go, and You mentioned those guys battling at the back. If you're Chris Sherbourne, if you're Keegan Lahey, you're kind of hoping to get to the white flag without a caution.
Well, we all remember, we've referenced it many times tonight, how thrilling the end of this race was back in 2019 with fuel being a factor. Not the case tonight. All these drivers could probably go an extra 10 laps beyond the checkered flag. Of course, that would help them out if overtime was necessary. But that time through, popsicle sticks in the air and 2 laps to go from IMS. Sherbourne is still the faster of these 2 cars, a 1/10 of a second better last time by. So I don't think it's the speed that's the issue, Tim. I think it's the time. Don't think he'll have enough of it to get all the way back up there. He needs about 4 more car lengths. This is his view into turn 3 for the penultimate time.
Right there. He's driving it in deeper into these corners than Keegan Lahey has. Keegan's leaving a little bit on the table into the corner, especially down into corner number 1. We're going to see it one more time here, Evan, as they come across the yard of bricks this time. They will take the white flag. Final lap here from Indianapolis. If Chris Sherbourne is going to make any time, he's got to sail it on in, lick the stamp here down into turn number 1.
It's the white flag presented by iRacing. There is no traffic up the road. It is clean sailing for both Keegan Lahey and Chris Sherbourne. Alfalla 2 seconds off in third. He's not a part of this battle. Now these two, the closest they've been in 5 laps. It is only 2 car lengths in between them. Sherbourne looking to the inside. He is going to really need a big run at a turn 4 if he wants to get there. Now just 1 car length in turn 3. Through the short chute. Now final time in turn 4. Sherbourne looks, but it's not going to happen. He's in the fence out of 4. And Keegan Lahey, for the 7th time in his career, a Coke Series winner. He gets it done at Indianapolis.
Sherbourne drove the wheels off that thing almost literally coming off of corner number 4 to make a charge, but it's not going to be enough. Keegan Lahey adds his name to winners here at Indianapolis, picks up his 2nd win of the season. He's only the 2nd repeat winner here in 2020, and he'll celebrate on the yard of bricks this time by. Congratulations to driver number 32, and what a battle at the end between those two. Ray Alfalla dropped off to about 2 seconds off that battle at the end, but he also put up a great fight. Great way to end this one with only 1 caution.
I mean, 1 lap. I think 1 lap more would have been the difference. You can see that he was there. And again, I think that was still with the slower car, because we saw Leahy get up to him, pass him pretty easily. The draft gave him another opportunity, but there's only 1 car burning it down, and it's Keegan Lahey on the front straightaway. Yet another trip to victory lane for the number 32 Toyota. Tonight's winning moment from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And it has already been, to this point, Tim, such a good season for this number 32 team. Keegan Lahey came into tonight as the points leader, and he'll leave not only with that still defended, but now as a 2-time winner in 2020.
Evan, there are places you want to win. Indianapolis is definitely one of them. As you see Keegan Lahey at the top of this board, he's scratched off another big one.
Let's take a look at the results here tonight from the Brickyard Unofficial. Then that margin of victory between those top two, 0.2 of a second between Leahy and Sherbourne. You could see how Alfalla dropped off, and that battle for 4th never really caught up more. Garrett Lowe defends before top Michael Conti in the number 5 spot. Then you got Ryan Luza, Graham Bolin, Casey Kerwin, Bobby Zelensky, and Nick Ottinger, your top 10.
You look at 11th, you're going to see Eric Smith, and he had one heck of a run tonight, Evan, coming home in position number 11, 1 shy of a top 10 run. Jimmy Mullis, Malik Ray, Michael Guest, great run for 14th. Michael Guerrilla, Dylan Duvall, he was mixing it up early within the that top 25 battle or so, comes home in 16th. Santiago Tires, he needed a good run for points, comes home in 17th. Justin Bolton, 18th. Brad Davies comes back for 19th, and Kane Cook in 20th.
And second half of the field, the likes of Chris Overland, Ashton Crowder, and Brian Schoenberg. We talked about a lot of these drivers early, defending race winner Corey Vincent, Logan, and Clampett way back in, 26th. A lot of guys that we thought would be better off. Novak, Keister, Reynolds, who stayed out after starting this race, way up in P5, gets a 29th out of it ahead of Phil Diaz in 30th.
And completing your field here this evening, Jake Nichols, Christian Chalner, Bob Bryant, Alex McCollum, John Gorlinski, one of those drivers that stayed out late hoping for a caution. It comes home in 35th place. Jarl T in 36, Jeremy Allen 1 lap down, Brandon Cattell 1 lap down, and Matt Busa, he seems like he doesn't have any luck here at Indianapolis. He comes home in 39th place.
To look top to bottom at your full race results here tonight from Indianapolis. So just like that, 9 weeks down, 7 to go, and we talked all about how Indianapolis has produced first-time winners, and for Keegan Lahey, at least in his case, he gets to kiss the virtual bricks for the very first time, as Indy has now hosted 11 races for 9 different race winners, but it continues a strong season for him, Tim. That strategy, I think, despite the fact that it was pretty clear-cut and the fact that we all had to pit once and there was a very wide window to do so, separated our top runners from the first half of the race, I think, more than I was expecting it.
And he had to manage that battle with Chris Sherbourne and Ray Alfalla to eventually make the pass to take the win, as well as pit strategy to come back from there. Had that slow stop on the first caution as well. Keegan Lahey, point leader, wins another race. He's got to feel confident heading into this stretch towards playoffs.
And it's going to get that much more critical week by week. Again, the wins at this point, really just an opportunity for some of these top runners to flex their muscles and show the rest of their competitors in this championship, that, hey, I'm going to be one to deal with. And I don't think anybody's shocked that the 32 machine was good here tonight at Indy. But, Tim, when we were looking through the running order, I was surprised to me how many drivers not only started up front, but, ran up front, were back there. Crowder, Vincent, Reynolds, all top 10 cars for the first half, not even finishing top 20.
Considering we only had one caution and really one restart to try to get some positions. Yes, we had a round of green flag pit stops. Some drivers ended up having strategy that didn't play out in their favor, but we did have some differing strategies, but not a whole lot of time to bunch the field together and really make up those positions. So, Evan, I definitely agree with you. Sherbourne started 20th, came home in second. Ryan Luza, obviously, subpar qualifying effort tonight, started 23rd, came home in 6th. Bobby Zelensky comes home in 9th after starting 36th. But then you had a lot of drivers. Jimmy Mullis comes to mind, finishing 12th after starting on the front row.
Yeah, a lot of positive stories. Luza as well, 23rd to 6th. Bobby Zelensky, 36th to 9th. So a lot of drivers. We talk about those who went backwards. Always an equal number of those who were able to move up their way through the field. Let's go trackside now and talk with your race winner tonight for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is win number 2 on 2020 for the driver of the 32 Toyota, Keegan Lahey. Keegan, congratulations on the win here tonight for the Brickyard. Tell us about that late battle between you, Chris, and Ray.
That was crazy. What an amazing car, first of all. What a pleasure to drive. I'm still driving it, honestly. I don't want to leave. I'm beat. You can probably tell I'm a little bit sweaty, and this wheel is awesome. This saved me so many times during the race, and I don't think I would have won without it. There was some really crazy battles there all through the whole race, and Chris Sherbourne, who I knew was going to be my main competition probably the whole night, I called it by lap 1 because I knew we had a really strong car, and we worked together on the setup this week, and he did a great job, specifically him, putting this thing together for race trim, and it was great.
You talk about working on the car. This season started off so well for you with the trip to victory lane at Daytona. You've been at the top of the championship standings basically throughout this year, came into tonight as the points leader. When you're on top, do you find it more difficult to continue to put that work in to improve? I know that a lot of the guys will say, I finished 30th. That's unacceptable. I'm going to work really hard. Where do you find the motivation, not only just yourself, but the group altogether, to be up at the top and stay there this consistently and kind of cementing yourself as maybe one of the championship favorites this year?
That is a really good question, Evan. Motivation's probably the absolute most important factor. And what makes a good race team, what makes a fast driver. And it's been tough. It's really hard to be at the top level. This is my 3rd season, and it took me a while to get here to begin with. So, everyone's life changes, and I was lucky enough to actually, I'm doing sim racing full time right now, so I have the luxury of time on my side. So the motivation's certainly there. Being the points leader, you have the expectation to run well, so it's just embarrassing if you don't run well, honestly. So that's what keeps me going. I want to keep my spot. I want to prove that I'm supposed to be here. And you look at the top 8 or top 10 or whatever, it's been the same guys pretty much the last few seasons, and it's consistent. The motivation's consistent with those guys and myself, I'd like to say, because we have the passion for it.
Well, nothing embarrassing out of the result tonight, keeping the boss man happy for win number 2 in 2020. Keegan, you'll keep that points lead, headed off to New Hampshire in 2 weeks. Thanks for chatting, and we'll catch you then.
Yep, thanks. VRS Direct Force Pro, check it out.
And he won it on that wheel here tonight. That's your race winner, Keegan Lahey. Tim, I'll pass things over to you. Chris Sherbourne was so close tonight. He settles for 2nd at the Brickyard, and you're chatting with him.
It was great to see one of the older guys here in sim racing take home a 2nd place finish. But Chris, what else did you need here tonight to get Keegan Lahey and get that first win in the series?
When you're that close, it's just a little bit of everything, or just one thing. I think he was a little bit, a couple laps better tires than I was, which was probably the main difference. I probably didn't have the best pit stop. It was decent, but it was a little bit soft, just to be cautious. Could have pitted maybe a little bit earlier, actually, and got a little bit more better track position and before he could get to me with his tires. It was fast enough. I just didn't execute quite perfectly enough there at the end to get it. It just came up a couple tenths short.
Second half of this regular season, you started off with a 2nd place finish. You've been quietly working your way up towards that playoff bubble. What's the mindset going forward here, trying to get yourself into this playoffs?
Just keep running like this. We've been pretty fast all year. I feel like I could have won a couple races. This year has been a struggle to a lot of things off the track going on. Like a lot of distractions. The day of the Atlanta race, I broke my wrist and had to battle through that, and still got a good top 5 finish. And it's healing, but I still can't really use it. So hurt me a little bit, but we're still plenty fast enough. I can still drive it fine. Just trying to push through some obstacles here and try to avoid wrecks and misfortune. That's been the biggest thing this year. Is just we've been fast, just keep getting unlucky breaks. A couple races I missed the setup, but otherwise I've had a good enough car to run in the top 5 pretty much every week. So it's good to finally start getting a couple in a row here to finally move up the standings a little bit.
Well, it's great to see you up here once again. Congratulations on this run, and we'll hopefully talk to you in 2 weeks at Loudon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Also want to
Well, Evan, that's Chris Sherbourne. I believe Ray Alfalla finished in 3rd. You've caught up with him.
We're standing by with the driver who finishes the 3rd step on the podium here tonight at Indianapolis. And, Ray, coming off of the win at Atlanta, feeling good and just about made it back-to-back. Tell us about it.
Yeah, just not very happy about it, honestly. We had to short pit there on with 30-something to go to pit. We short field earlier, and so we pitted, and then we knew those guys were coming on fresh tires, and we came to lap Matt Busa, and he just bombed it down pit road wide open, and I thought he was going to hit the pit wall, and it distracted me for a split second, and I hit the wall, and that was it. I couldn't hold him off. I needed everything I could get. So yeah, not very happy with Matt. Don't know what that deal was all about, but yeah, it's nice to be unhappy with 3rd though. The car was amazing. Big thanks to everybody on Slip Angle Motorsports. I didn't do much this past week at all, so big kudos to them. Eric Smith has also worked very hard to make this car really fast, so big thanks to him and everybody else that tested. I know Corey Carpenter, he's not even in the Coke Series, and he put in a lot of time, especially helping out the qualifying. So big thanks to those guys, and it feels good to be mad about 3rd.
Yeah, you beat me to the question because, I think 3 races ago would have been ecstatic with the third and coming off of the race win, obviously, you expect more. What has been the difference over the last couple of weeks? Is it the tracks more so kind of fitting into your driving style, or have you, and you mentioned all of the guys behind the scenes working on this car, have you guys kind of found a match between you and this current package that maybe wasn't there at the start of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to take a bunch of credit on the driving, but it's very setup dependent. So the car has to be fast, has to be there. We have fast cars right now. The past 2 tracks, Atlanta and Indy, are probably my 2 favorite tracks. So I don't know, man. I'm just disappointed with third. I really thought I had that win in the bag, and then just hit the wall on the straightaway, got distracted, and yeah. So I am not happy at all right now.
Well, we appreciate you chatting with us, Ray, and we'll catch you again in 2 weeks' time when you get another go at it at New Hampshire.
Thanks, and go VRS. VRS driver 1 as well, so awesome job, Keegan.
Representing well, that is Ray Alfalla, who comes home at 3rd tonight from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And there's some insights with our top 3 finishers. Big thanks to Keegan Lahey, Chris Sherbourne, and Ray Alfalla for chatting with us, Tim. And the last point I made there, a good segue, because we get set to do it again 2 weeks' time for round number 10. And you want to talk about unique racetracks, we're headed to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for round number 10.
Yeah, the flat 1 mile racetrack in Loudon going to be our next round, and then you go to that second half of the regular season, or the second side of that regular season, with Michigan, Watkins Glen, 2 plate racetracks or 2 super speedways in Daytona and Talladega, Darlington, and Las Vegas are also sprinkled in there as well. Should be a fun race in a couple of weeks. Obviously, kind of a home game for iRacing with their located just outside of Boston. It's a home racetrack for me when it comes to Cup Series action. I'm excited to go to Loudon. We're going to see some great racing there. And for those that need to turn their season around, I think the pressure cooker is going to be heated up just a little bit more too.
Yeah, tonight we could tell ourselves, hey, at least after this, you still have 7 races to go in the regular season. Well, now you could only tell yourself that after this, it'll be 6. So each week, it gets that much more critical. Let's take a look now, Tim, at tonight's Coca-Cola move of the race. And we saw this all in the closing laps, coming to the fight for the race win. And here it is, as Ray Alfalla and that 32 machine of Keegan Lahey found each other. It starts at the back straightaway.
It starts in the back straightaway with the 2 of Ray Alfalla leading, the 32 of Keegan Lahey. And Chris Sherbourne, a part of this battle as well, trying to figure out where he manages this battle, trying to make that move. He just got passed by the 32 of Keegan Lahey. Now Lahey trying to get by Ray Alfalla, can't do it there. Alfalla's in control of this battle, Evan, as they come down the front straightaway, but there's Keegan Lahey poking that nose to the outside.
And he's going to be questioning what if he never had that damage to allow them to close in. But that was the battle to the end of the race, as Keegan Lahey was able to get on through, make the pass. And of course, that battle for second saw Sherbourne as well get around the 2 of Alfalla. Tim, a fun night at Indianapolis, and I think it'll continue. Hope everybody joins us in 2 weeks.
The racing has been great so far this season, and we've seen a lot of green flag racing. We've seen a lot of respect between these competitors, but now that intensity starts to ramp up even more as we get into the second half of this season. This is going to be pretty exciting. Can't wait to see what they can do at Loudon after a great race tonight at Indy.
And it's it here for us tonight from Indianapolis Motor Speedway as round number 9 falls into our rear view mirror. As always, want to thank the massive team behind the scenes for making this possible, for everybody at NASCAR, iRacing, and for our broadcast team tonight. So for Angela Tagarello, Cisco Scarabuzza, Drew Adamson, James Pike, Jay Kennedy, Justin Prince, Mike Taylor, Sean Ambrose, Tim Burns, and after that, mouthful for us upstairs. For Tim Terry and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Keegan Lahey. We're back in 2 weeks' time on July the 14th from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series going to be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from the Brickyard.